GI Bill means a lot to my family, and it does to a lot of families. And I just think, Mr. President, that this is a benefit which has been around now for, I believe, 74 years this Friday. Think about that. 3/4 of a century this Friday. And this Friday marks the 74th anniversary of President Franklin Roosevelt signing the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944 into law. This legislation is more commonly known, we call it the GI Bill. And we've always called it the GI Bill. But thanks to the GI Bill, millions of returning World War II veterans flooded our nation's colleges and universities and ushered in an era of unprecedented economic expansion. And since 1944, the GI Bill has transformed our country and the lives of millions of veterans, including me. But it really helped to create a middle class in this country, as millions of GIs came back, had a chance to learn a skill, go to college in many cases, and have economic opportunities for themselves and their family that never before had been possible. And this week, so we're recognizing, I think for the first time, the historical significance of the GI Bill. We're going to designate the week from June 18th through June 22nd as National GI Bill Commemoration Week. I want to thank several senators. Senator Sullivan from Alaska, the colonel in the Marine Corps. He's a chairman and ranking member of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. Senator Johnny Isaac, Senator John Tester, and for joining me in introducing the resolution in the Senate to designate June 18th through 22nd as National GI Bill Commemoration Week. I want to thank House Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman Rowe and Ranking Member Walz for introducing the same resolution in the House of Representatives. And I want to thank the American Legion for their hard work in making this resolution a reality and for advocating for veterans and veterans education benefits in Congress, as have other service organizations. But I think the American Legion was present at the creation and worked very hard right at the creation to make sure that we had a GI Bill and it would survive. But Mr. President, because this is GI Bill Week, I want to mention just a few reasons why some folks refer to the GI Bill as the greatest legislation. You know, we have a greatest generation, my parents' generation, folks who grew up in the Great Depression and went on to do amazing things with their life. Some people refer to the GI Bill as the greatest legislation, and I want to share my own story, which I've already done today. The GI Bill made immediate financial support, education, home loans, programs. I bought my first home with a GI Bill via mortgage-backed insurance. That's how I got insured my mortgage, and so I was able to get the low rate of the GI Bill. Millions of veterans bought a home with the help of the GI Bill. But this combination of opportunities changed the social and economic fabric of our country. And with a 1988 report from the Joint Economic Committee estimating that for every $1 the United States invested in the GI Bill, about $7 was returned in economic growth. Think about that. For every $1 we invested, a $7 return in economic growth. Thanks to the GI Bill, close to 500,000 engineers, close to 250,000 accountants, close to 250,000 teachers, almost 100,000 scientists, about 67,000 doctors, over 120,000 dentists, thousands of other professionals entered the workforce of the United States. And I might add, they're still entering the workforce of the United States. The GI Bill truly democratized our higher education system, established greater citizenship and civic participation, and empowered the greatest generation to lead our country following World War II. Over the past 74 years, Congress has enacted subsequent GI Bills to provide educational assistance to new generations of veterans, including the Veterans Readjustment Benefit Act of 1966, the Post-Vietnam Era Veterans Education Act of 1977, the Veterans Education Assistance Act of 1984, and most recently, the bill whose benefits I just cited, the Post-9/11 Veterans Educational Assistance Act, which we voted on and debated here, I think in about my 8th year here in the Senate. But after returning from 3 tours of duties over in Southeast Asia, as I said earlier, I was fortunate enough to be able to use the Vietnam-era GI Bill benefits at the University of Delaware. I want to just close by saying this. Senator Young is on the floor. He's going to offer, I think, an amendment here in just a moment. He's a Marine. and proud to serve with him. And what I like to say, Marine Corps, Navy, different uniforms, but same team. And I salute him for his service. But if you go back to, I mentioned 2008, that was when we were falling into the worst recession since the Great Depression. Some of us will recall. Some of these pages up here were about half their current age. They're now about 15, 16 years old. When they were about 8 years old, we were falling into the worst economic hole we've been in since the Great Depression. The unemployment rate for our country, as I recall, reached or exceeded 10%. The unemployment rate, I've been told by my staff, was higher for veterans, higher than 10%, significantly higher, as I've been told. That was where we were in 2009 at the bottom of the Great Recession. Since that time, a lot of veterans have come home. They've been able to take advantage of the current GI Bill, the new GI Bill, the very generous GI Bill. And you know what's happened? They found jobs. They found economic opportunity. They're doing all kinds of things for the education that they've gained in some kinds of four-year colleges, advanced degrees, two-year colleges, training schools. And the unemployment rate for our country has now just dropped under 4%. We're in the 9th year of an economic expansion, longest-running economic expansion in our country's history. And but while the national unemployment rate is about 3.9%, the veterans' unemployment rate is no longer above the national average. It's below. The national average is down to about 3.9. The veterans' unemployment rate is about 3.4. And again, I think we can say to the GI Bill, which helps to educate a whole new generation of young men and women, that the GI Bill is in no small part responsible for that. And I want us to commend my colleagues, Jim Webb, who's former senator from Virginia, who was the author of the legislation in 2008 that a lot of us supported, voted for. But we are grateful for that support, grateful to as a veteran, to the people of this country having confidence in us and making sure that we can make an investment on their behalf, on our behalf. So later this week, Friday, people say, what day is Friday? Well, Friday is the anniversary, the 74th anniversary of the GI Bill. One of the greatest pieces of legislation that we've ever passed and enacted in this country. It's a gift that keeps on giving, and hopefully we'll continue to do so for a long time. Now, there's the two gentlemen who lead the Veterans Committee here on the floor today, and I'm going to wrap up and ask unanimous consent that Senator Young, who I believe is the chair, chair? No? He's the author of an amendment that's going to be offered here. I've been asked to ask 5 minutes time for you to speak, and Senator Tester, is 2 okay with you? 2 is okay. Unanimous consent to proceed for when I finish 5 minutes for Mr. Young, Senator Young, and 3 minutes for Senator Tester. All right?
Without objection.